I'm looking at you, Robin. Well done. Right.
We're not now.
No. Okay, item 3, matters arising from the previous minutes. Mark.
Thank you, Chairman. I can confirm to members that all the matters arising and actions from the previous meeting have been addressed, with the exception of 0826, which is a longer term aspiration, which was to bring an update on the benefits achieved in terms of social value, sustainability, around procurement to a future meeting of the committee. I confirm that will come later in the year. All the others have been addressed.
Any questions on that? Any observations? Okay, thank you very much. Item 4, disclosure of interest. Looking around the room. Any at all? Thank you for that. Questions from the public?
None, Chairman.
Item 6, would you like to take that one, Mark?
Yeah, I can confirm, thank you, Chairman, there's been no covert surveillance conducted by officers since the last meeting of the committee.
Okay. I must say, can I just say that Graham's not here today? It's for other reasons. So we've got Mark who's taken his role today. So you're doing very well up to now, aren't you? Item 7, internal audit reports. Selena.
Thank you, Chair. So this paper details the internal audit strategy for the year 23-24 and the proposed internal audit plan for the year. There are no material changes to the strategy to the further seen in prior years. However, I just want to highlight again that we've continued to maintain a small provision of contingency days to enable the Director of Finance and Assets to work with the internal audit team to direct our work to any emerging risk areas to be considered in the year. The Buckinghamshire Council Business Assurance Team is responsible for implementing the Fire Authority's internal audit strategy. The Council Audit Regulations 2015 require the Fire Authority to maintain an adequate and effective internal audit service in accordance with proper internal audit practices. With this, the Fire Authority must undertake an effective internal audit to evaluate effectiveness of its risk management, internal controls and governance processes, take into account the public sector internal audit standards and the guidance. The standards set out guidance and requirements for the practice of internal audit, and Buckinghamshire Council Internal Audit Service operates within these standards, and we are assessed against these particular standards periodically. A key part of the strategy is to ensure that the right skills and mix of resource exist to deliver the effectiveness of the service. And for the plan for 23-24, we aim to provide continuity in resource and will allocate audit assignments according to the needs and the risk factors for that particular engagement. The audit manager will oversee each audit engagement to ensure that it's delivered to time and to quality. Appendix A of your packs, which is page 34, outlines the proposed plan for 23-24, which was drafted in consultation with the Director of Finance and Assets and the Senior Management Board, with consideration of the Fire Authority's corporate plan, strategic risk and previous audit activity. On Appendix B, which is on page 34, we've outlined for you the Fire Authority's audit universe, which is effectively a list of all the audit assignments that we've undertaken in previous years and the associated assurance opinion awarded to each engagement. I'll pause there for any questions.
Robin.
Yeah, thank you very much. Not on the audit, and maybe it should get added to the audit depending on the decision. The urban rescue is still out. We haven't heard what the decision of the government is. That is equipment, assets, and will change the way that we operate, depending if it's a negative decision. We all hope that they'll come back and say no change here. Whether we're going to audit the change, audit the risk and the effect on the whole Fire Authority, because if we don't, there's things that they do that we don't do, and things that we'll need to do that they do, or you have to look at. So I think it's a big risk, and I think it should be at least flagged up, and at least some work done on where we are with it. Of course, Chief may know more than we know, hopefully, about whether they're going to actually carry on with the £1 million grant to urban fire rescue.
Would you let me take that?
The Chief knows.
I don't know. The current position is we've been informed informally that it's likely that we're going to lose the urban search and rescue grant. Informally, but we've still had no letter from the Home Office. When I was informed 8 to 10 weeks ago, I was told, you know, a letter would be coming that week. I was informed on the Tuesday and I was told that the letter would be landing by the Friday. There has still been no letter of confirmation that we're losing the grant. And I take that as a positive thing. I think probably the issue about urban search and rescue is probably best, if I've not answered it here, is probably best picked up in the corporate risk register because it links to finances and other bits rather than this paper.
Thank you, so we'll do it again. So you are aware of it and you are monitoring it, and if there's any change, can we please know at the earliest possible time?
Yes,
Because
yes.
I am aware that there was a massive exercise last week and which I believe was absolute success of all people working together, which shows why it's needed. Do you think there needs to be some communication done around what it actually does? Because the general public probably don't know really what it does until they've lost it, and then they'll know what it did do. If you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jason.
Okay. Go, Janet, do you want to come back on that, on that little item there? Okay, just to put a recommendation on that one.
Yeah, so the recommendation on this one, Chairman, is that members note the internal audit strategy and approve the annual internal audit plan.
Everyone agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Next one.
So this next paper is to update members on the progress of our delivery of the 22-23 annual internal audit plan. Since the last meeting, the team has finalised 4 audits, and I'm joined here with my colleague Alex, who will also support in highlighting some of the findings in those reports. So we'll start off with Appendix A, which is on page 39 of your pack, which is the core financial control reports, and Alex will summarise those findings.
Thank you, Selina. So for the 22-23 core financial control audit, we returned to our full sample methodology, which was either a sample of 25 or 10%. And we looked at the risk areas of the financial control framework, creditors, debtors, payroll, general ledger, grant income, capital, banking and reconciliations, VAT and treasury management. So we raised 3 low priority management actions this year. So this was around purchasing card spending limits, an update to the financial instructions, and a second officer check for some payroll processing tasks. So yeah, that's a summary of this audit report. So I'll happily take any questions on it.
Anyone? Robin.
Yeah, thank you again. A short question. We have thankfully been in a situation where we have the work fire dispute, which means that the business, what we budgeted in the budget meeting, goes forward. Will we be receiving a paperback on the changes? Because obviously that was quite a change in finances of the authority and how we're going to go forward. And though we may have got where we need to get for this year, I think we need to plan where we're going to be in year 2, year 3 thereafter, because that's an ongoing commitment. Didn't see it in there. If it's the wrong paper, apologise. But the brain doesn't always compute in the right order. Thank you.
So I think I'll pass that on to
Mark.
Mark.
Yeah.
That's a pop up as well, so, oh yeah. So yeah, it's the wrong paper for that one. So this is looking around the internal controls, making sure we've got our processes correctly. That was presented as part of the budget in February. We brought an updated Appendix A to take into account the new pay award of 7 and 5, so 7 from July last year. We've also factored in the 5% from July going forward. So they've all been factored into the budget. And you will, of course, get the regular budget monitoring reports throughout the year as well to keep you appraised of progress against that.
Thank you very much. What I wanted to know, I know we're going to do it, but we'll see it in a future report. We have to model it going forward because it is a change from what we were first looking at, in a sense.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it's a significant change, yeah.
We can afford to pay that ongoing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to highlight again from an audit perspective, we have the plan for next year, looking at the medium financial planning. So again, that will be taken on board in terms of assessing what we're looking at.
Brilliant.
That's good. That's because
Brilliant, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any more on that? No? Any questions anywhere? Written recommendation, right?
No, I think this, sorry, Chairman, there's more
Oh,
reports.
of course,
It's still-
okay, good.
It's got quite a few.
Yeah, I'm looking it down here.
So I'll just talk through the next paper within that pack is Appendix B, which is on page 57, apologies.
Yeah.
And this is the risk management business continuity report, which we originally for assurance opinion. So there are no findings that were raised relating to the risk management aspect of the review. However, 7 findings were raised for the business continuity element of the audit. So that included 2 high findings, 4 medium priority, and 1 that was low priority finding. The key findings within that related to the testing of the plans, reviewing of the business continuity plans, and again, training and lessons learned around that. And I'll pause there for any questions related to
Any
that.
questions there? Okay,
So following on from there, we've got
Yeah.
Appendix C,
Yeah.
which is on page 75. This is the final report from the pension administration audit. So West Yorkshire Pension Fund is responsible for administering the Fire Authority's pension. The audit reviewed 8 key risk areas, and the overall opinion for this report was substantial, with only 1 low priority finding raised, which related to performance monitoring. And I'll pause there for any questions related to that report.
Robin?
You're going to say yes, and that's why I'm asking. Pension is secure. There's enough funds in there to meet our requirements.
So this was primarily on the firefighters pension scheme, which is an unfunded pension scheme. It's a pay-as-you-go scheme, so essentially we get the money comes through the top-up grant mechanism. So it is actual evaluations to make sure the employer and employees pay the correct contribution. So over the life of the kind of notional fund, it will be secure, yes.
So that means it's only secure if one pays it.
Yes.
That's what I thought you were going to say. That's why I'm being flippant in saying it's secure and sure. Yeah, because it's important thing that when people retire that they have a pension. Important thing to be able to retire. As they keep moving the retirement age up, every 3/4 of an hour.
Okay, Bill?
Yeah, just for clarification, really, Chairman, on page 77, is the colour wrong with the wording? We've got about the bottom one, risk management progress. Green is substantial, yellow is the next.
Yeah.
So is it the
Is the
colour wrong or the
totally
wording?
wrong? No, it's the colour is wrong, so that will still be substantial and green.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Good spot.
Any other questions?
I'll move on to the last final report. So that's Appendix D, which is on page 89 of your packs. And this is the HR payroll process review. And I'll hand over to Alex to talk through the issue.
Thank you, Selina. So for the HR payroll process review, we took an approach similar to that of the asset management process review that we presented last year. So it involved an element of discovery work, and then we mapped the processes focusing on various controls in place. And then we also looked at system access, the HR and payroll system, and then we noted some observations and some recommendations as well. So in general, we found that controls were in place for processes that flowed between HR and payroll. There were 2 recommendations that we raised, and this was just to streamline the process because both teams sit in different departments. And so it's just over sharing documents, so working off the same starter checklist and working off the same leaver checklist. So it should avoid any duplication and any confusion between the teams as well. And we also found that all follow-up actions we looked at had been fully implemented. So yeah, I'll happily take any questions on that review.
Robin?
Yeah, thank you for the review, and it's a very good paper and there's no real risk in it. But I'm having trouble to understand, it might be me, page 92, it's got match gap comparisons between the 2 individual applications. I just want a little explanation around what that actually means, if I don't understand what it means. I presume it's matching gaps in employment around needs. Might be my reading of it and the quality of skills, sets and whatever. Does that mean there is a gap in in the fight that we're trying to match, or are we moving people to different positions to match the need? I'm not sure what it means. If you could just explain it to me, I'm a councillor, not a predictive sort of person.
Yeah, thank you, councillor. So that is just around making sure that the attributes of applicants and people recruited does match any skills gaps or or staff gaps.
Yeah, I thought that's what it meant, but I thought it's best to ask that's exactly what it meant and find out it meant something completely different.
Okay. Everybody finished there? Right.
The recommendation on page 37 then is that members note the final audit reports for the financial year 2022-23.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Right, item 8. We've got a presentation. Welcome to you. Could you want to introduce you?
Sorry.
Oh,
Right, item 7C.
oh, I'm C. Yeah, of course. No, we're on that one too. I lost the plot there. So back to you.
Apologies, it's my
Yeah.
last paper now.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
So on this paper, we're just providing an update on the implementation of the audit actions that we've raised from previous audit engagements. So there are currently 12 actions that have not been implemented and are past their due date. And there are 5 actions that are still in progress, but where due dates have not reached. So page 108 of your pack is the detailed report of those actions that are deemed overdue at this moment.
Yeah.
We continue to work with action owners to progress those, and an update of the progress status has been provided within that detail. Questions?
Robin.
Just suggest apologise for asking, just suggest that was a 2021. That action should come from 2021, so it's an overdue action. Am I correct?
Yes.
So it's by its high priority. Is there any determined negative impact from that not having been done? And it's quite a broad, without reading the entire text that you've got in the report, it's quite a broad expression of what needs to be done. You anticipate it being done short to medium terms, clearly needs to be done by the expressions of the concerns from Beaconsfield and different things, the fire stations and stuff in there, which are in that report. It's obviously something you've been trying to work on for a long time.
So I think with that one, we have assurances that actually the action should be complete. We're just waiting to see the evidence from an audit perspective. So from the conversations with the team, they have implemented it, but we can't take off the list until I've seen the evidence to substantiate it. So for the next meeting, you should not see that on the list.
That's really good, thank you.
Right. Any other questions? Any more observations? Okay.
So the recommendation is on page 105 of your packs, which is that members note the progress on the annual internal audit plan.
Agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you for everybody for their hard work there. It's always a difficult situation, but it's really appreciated. Thanks for that. Right, item 8. Now we're back onto the presentation. Would you like to introduce yourselves for the new members?
Certainly. So thank you, Chair. Andrew Britton, partner at EY, responsible for the external audit of the Fire Authority.
Francesca Keats, assistant manager at EY, responsible for the running of the audit.
Good.
So I'm here to present the audit results report for the March 22 audit. As you will note from, well, I guess, 2 things, the report itself, which I will take as read, but also sort of status update in terms of the accounts. We're not in a position to finalise the 22 audit. We'll explain a couple of reasons for that as we go through. So therefore, in line with your governance process, we will defer the completion of the audit and signing of the accounts to the next meeting, which I understand is July. In terms of the report itself, a couple of things to highlight. So let's just take you through the executive summary, which starts on page 119 of your packs. A few things that we would highlight to you. So first of all, the original planning report set out our planning materiality for the audit. We update that based on the actual results. So that has resulted in a slightly higher materiality based on a slightly higher outturn for the authority in terms of the 22 accounts. So we have an overall materiality overall materiality of 920,000. Just for assurance of all members, that doesn't mean to say we don't look at anything under 920,000, and that's the basis on which we believe that errors that were uncorrected would cause our opinion to change from being true and fair to a qualified opinion. In terms of the progress that we have made substantial progress, and it, I would say, is substantially complete. There are a few outstanding items which are listed on the next page. There's a number associated with plant, property and equipment, which I'll let Fran talk to in a little bit more detail. The other significant one there you'll see listed is the IS 19 pension liability. So this relates to the local government pension scheme element of the authority's accounts. For those of you obviously who are given your knowledge of Buckinghamshire's audits, you'll be aware that the pension scheme audit is delayed. Therefore, they're reporting to us of the IS 19, which is essentially the insurances they give us over the local government pension scheme element that sits within the authority's accounts, have also been delayed. We have yet to receive that, and obviously we cannot complete our work on the pension liability until such time as we receive that assurance from Grant Thornton in relation to the Buckinghamshire Pension Fund. The other elements on there are all things that you would expect to see as outstanding as we wrap up the audit work in the close down of the audit process. In terms of again, as a reminder, we give there's two elements to our audit opinion. The opinion on the financial statements themselves, so whether we believe them to be true and fair reflection of the authority's financial position, and also then the value for money conclusion. We have completed our work on the value for money conclusion, and whilst we will always obviously update that at the point at which we sign, we have no matters to report on the value for money conclusion in relation to the authority having put in place the proper arrangements to secure economy, efficiency and effectiveness on its use of resources. In terms of on the following page, we highlight a couple of auditor differences. Again, first one relates to work around the valuations of PPE, so Fran will talk to that. The second one was just a disclosure point in terms of the disclosures relating to financial instruments and making sure that the right things were captured within that particular disclosure, and those corrections have been made in the latest version of the accounts. At this point, we have no other uncorrected statements. We have no uncorrected statements to bring to your attention. Clearly, we'll update you at the point at which we finally conclude on the audit. Other than that, just the final point there, we're also asked to review the annual governance statement for consistency, and we have no matters to report to that. We are also asked to report to the National Audit Office on the whole of government account return. The National Audit Office haven't yet issued their instructions for the 21-22 year end, but obviously we do not anticipate there being any issues in relation to that. I'll pause there. I'm going to ask Fran to talk a little bit more about the PPE, but if there's any questions on
any question on that part of the Robin?
Yeah, thank you very much. Earlier in the paper, it quite interesting. It says private and confidential above your name, Andrew. I know you are private and you are confidential. Is that what it meant? I don't think it meant the paper was private and confidential. Maybe it's lovely to see you again in a meeting.
Thank you.
But what I wanted to ask you, it goes into page was it now? You mentioned the situation to do with Milton Keynes with the fire station, and it also mentions some houses in Gerald Cross. There's no figures against those, no audit figure of money. What those obviously still being audited, whether they were good value or bad value. Yet we later in the report we put in the blue light hub. And we do put a material financial figure against the blue light hub, yet we don't have a material figure against Great Holm. And it's obviously a logical reason for that. It's just that simplicity, I look at something and it says valuation report of audited values, it says conclusion of Great Holm, and it says conclusion of Gerald Cross house valuation. That must be a nice house in Gerald Cross. Let's imagine everyone that once must be quite a comfortable house. I spent in Gerald Cross, but probably a bit more posh than North Bucks. But if I could have explanation why there's a difference in those two in the report.
I think Mark's got
Yeah.
Want to come in there?
So just on the Great Home bit, we need to be careful about talking about that in public, 'cause it's
Yeah.
still commercially sensitive.
It is.
Because the sale hasn't completed.
No.
So we don't want to talk about the value of Great Home per se and put pounds and pence on it in this meeting, if that's okay. I'll let Andrew speak.
Andrew.
About Gerrard's Cross.
Well, I'm going to let Fran talk to the detail because we've got that late. The bit that you're referring to is a bit further down the report. I mean, just to say, in terms of the general principle of the audit, we're not concluding on whether any of the properties that the authority own are good value for money. The value for money conclusion just is simply about whether the arrangements are in place within the authority to deliver the proper arrangements are in place to deliver value for money. In terms of our work on valuations more broadly, what we are doing is looking at the valuations that are in the balance sheet at the balance sheet date and concluding whether they are in line with the accounting standards and valued in a way that we would expect them to be, which for us involves the use of our own valuers and our own real estate specialists to conclude whether they are appropriately valued and disclosed within the account. In terms of bearing in mind Mark's point, but in terms of the properties that we're looking at that are still marked as outstanding and some of the issues that we've identified within the property valuations work that we've done, I'll hand over to Fran and just to explain a little bit more about the detail behind that, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so go straight into the first one, which is the leased land and buildings. So this is the Gerrard's Cross houses. We identified a group of assets which have not been revalued in line with the CITFA code. Management has subsequently arranged the assets to be revalued, and that's the work that we're looking at currently to assess the value that the valuer has revalued in year. And then we arrange our internal real estate team to have a look at the asset valuation so that we can conclude on it. We've had the draft report through from our internal valuers, and we're just waiting to conclude as an audit team on that valuation, and that's why there's no figures in the report yet, because we haven't concluded.
Yeah, I think we're there because you explained it's still in confidential.
Yeah.
Didn't know it's still in confidential. I drive by Great.
So that's the Gerrard's Cross.
That's
Right,
right.
Gerrard's
Yeah.
Cross.
Which is not confidential.
What I'm saying is, but it's in the report.
But it's not in the report because we haven't finished our work on it.
That's the perfect logical explanation. And then you further go down about waiting for a response from auditors and Buckinghamshire pension fund. Then you'll get that, and then that can be moved on. Hopefully our audit in the pension fund, it'd be nice if they are, and make sure people can retire. So you expect the response on that for the next meeting?
Yes, I was expecting a response by this meeting, but I haven't had one. So
Well, yeah, things move slowly, don't they? And deliberately, yeah, okay, yeah, well, hopefully
Okay.
we'll see that coming.
do you want
Right, carry on.
to finish on the?
Yeah.
The next item on our list is the valuation of Great Home Fire Station. I won't go into too detail on the valuation points, but we're currently reviewing it with our internal valuation specialist. We've had the draft report through and we're just reviewing it as an audit team to conclude on that asset. And we will be working with management to discuss our findings, but we have not yet completed. The next item picked up is we identified some issues with accounting for the valuations. So through our testing of some of the valuation journals, we identified some issues within that affected the current year and the prior year for the property, plant and equipment valuations. So the revaluation reserve balance per the authority's records was not reconciled with the balance in the accounts. There were assets with both revaluation reserve balance and historic loss, which altered the accounting treatment. And the revaluation loss for the blue light hub in the prior year had incorrectly been charged to the revaluation reserve. Management have worked through and restated the balances for the revaluation reserve and the capital adjustment account in the prior year and the current year. As a result of the restatement entries, management will be updating the accounts, and the adjustments are set out on page 136 of the pack. Further to those issues, we also identified a small presentational issue in the disclosure of property, plant and equipment. It was identified that both the property and accumulated depreciation was overstated in the current and the prior year. We know this does not affect the net book value of the property, plant and equipment, but it will affect the disclosure. management kind of to update on that then. And then there's a few final things outstanding in terms of the valuation sample testing. So we're still waiting on the final signed valuation report from the authority's external valuer. And we have a few outstanding queries in relation to the land values used in valuations that we're waiting for a response on.
Thank you very much for such a thorough response.
Okay,
Take any other questions?
yeah, any other questions? So if you go for.
No.
Okay,
No.
okay, yeah,
Okay,
fine, yeah,
so I'll take.
thank you.
With text the
Yes,
recommendation.
yes, please.
Okay, so the recommendation is on page 113 of your packs, which is that the content of the report be noted.
Agreed?
Great.
Excellent. Right, item 9. Okay, I must say that the lead members do have a lot of involvement in this, don't they? So just going to say about the past one as well, and this one is with Keith as well. So can we move on, Stuart, please?
Thank you, Chairman. So this is the regular report on the status of our corporate risks that we present to every meeting of this committee. The report at pages 163 to 184 of your papers reflects any changes and updates made to the corporate risk register since you last saw it at your 9th of November meeting. Since then, the risk register has been subject to regular review by officers at our performance monitoring and strategic management boards, most recently at the 9th of February SMB, and also by lead members where individual risks fall within their areas of reference. And those are shown in the responsibilities column in the risk register in Appendix 3, which is pages 171 to 184. Appendix 3 also contains the detailed evaluations and updates on the status of the individual corporate risks. I will briefly overview these before referring back to the chairman for any questions or comments that members may have. I will start by drawing your attention to the risk map at Appendix 1, which is page 167. As you can see from this, and also from Appendix 2 at page 169 overleaf, there have been some changes since we last reported to you in November. Most notably, the inclusion of a specific industrial relations risk following the outcome of the FBU's ballot for strike action. At the point at which the papers went to press for this meeting, the outcome of the FBU's subsequent ballot in relation to the employee revised pay offer of 7% and 5% for 2022, 23 and 23-24 respectively was unknown. It was therefore agreed at SMB that this risk would remain on the register with its initial risk score and RAG status until the outcome of the ballot was known. As members will be aware, FBU members voted overwhelmingly in favour of accepting the revised offer. The 96% voted to accept on an 84% turnout, thus ending the dispute and the risk of industrial action over this issue. We will, of course, reassess the risk following this, and it is likely that it will be reverted to the relevant Directorate Risk Register for background monitoring. Despite this, we are not completely out of the woods in relation to industrial action in a more general sense. As you'll see from the staff availability risk, there are other factors that can disrupt our operations, including ongoing industrial action in other sectors. For example, in the education sector, which can affect attendance of staff with childcare responsibilities. Overall, we've kept this risk at a red RAG status, as although steady progress with recruitment towards the target of 300 full-time firefighters is being made, retention remains a challenge, and also recruitment and retention of staff in specialist functions such as ICT and vehicle workshops. Perhaps just turn to our Deputy Chief or indeed to Jason, just whether you want to add anything on that.
No, so we continue to work hard around staff retention and recruitment, and we've had some other meetings that members have been involved with as well, actually, from a kind of a task and finish group perspective to look at that recruitment. We've currently got recruitment open for both transferees and whole-time firefighters, and they're doing quite well at the moment, and they're due to close on the 26th.
19th and 26th.
Yeah, the 19th for transferees and 26th for whole-time applications. We're actually at the Milton Keynes apprenticeship fair today as well. So there is a lot of work going on around recruitment and retention, but as Stuart says, we do keep it on the risk register because especially some of those specialist roles, we do find it hard to recruit into. But there is a lot of work going on in the background. And I don't know if you wanted to add any more on that.
Yeah, at the minute. So for example, for transferees, Mick said it's closing on the 19th. So we've got 27 applications at the minute. For the whole time, we've got 60 applications and we've got 115 pending. So as we are at the Bucks, we're at the Bucks Skills Show last week. We're at the Apprenticeship Show. We're at the Armed Forces event next week. So and we went to the cadets on Saturday as well, just to try and raise awareness as much as we can. Also, station commander in my team, and as if went to 2 local mosques as well, because we're also going to look at the diversity of people that we're recruiting.
And just on that as well, just to give you assurance, the workforce planning group met on Monday as well, just to update all of our figures and processes and look at where, because it isn't just about the numbers, it's about having the right people with the right skills in the right place as well. So how we develop our people, and we've been running development centres in the last couple of weeks as well. So that work is coming together. Thanks, Stuart.
Robin?
Yeah, thank you very much. Of course, it's really pleasing that we've managed to settle a dispute in an adult and cooperative way. I mean, that's a testament to the people involved. What is quite is that we are indirectly affected by other organisations which are in industrial action. You mentioned teachers, where perhaps that approach of discussion might be something people could learn from to try and settle a dispute. There is always a way through a dispute. You just have to actually sit down and work your way and find out where it is. I am concerned though, because younger life, it is always a problem matching your parental needs to your job, and that is something that we need to be very mindful of. Not always the person who you think is the carer of children, quite often it could be other people. So I do think that we need to sort of monitor that, because it doesn't look like all these things are going to sort themselves out very quickly. They've been going on for some time, and if some of the other industrial actions which we've seen, which aren't necessarily related to us, have got some long teeth in them. So we do need to make sure that we do something about monitoring the risk to our staff to be able to actually fill their job. Because if you cannot drop your children off at school and you can't know that they're going to be there, you can't be there. And whether we can, through introduce some modelling around home working, which I'm sure you're doing, around home working like we did during the COVID period, to allow staff to be at home to work if they can from home, so that they can meet their childcare commitments without interfering or commenting on a very legitimate and rightful dispute, which is nothing to do with us.
Yeah, Jason.
Just in terms of industrial action in other sectors and other areas, what we've done in the interim period, when there was possible industrial action within the fire and rescue service, we acted somebody up to lead on that as a separate sort of cell to oversee that. We've maintained that position, even though the FBU has settled, because there needs to be good communication between the fire and rescue service and other sectors, understanding them pieces. In terms of flexibility, we try to be flexible with our staff as much as we possibly can. We do have processes and procedures in place. There are people, for example, online today who would normally be here, but because the issues in terms of strike action in other sectors. So we maintain it as much as we possibly can. We may try and maintain a flexible approach with our staff, and hopefully that'll come through in terms of when we do the culture survey, etc.
Just lastly, one of the things which might not be appropriate now, but some of the shift patterns, in the sense that those of us whose children aren't, age profile of children is quite important when it comes to childcare. If it persists running through Easter back into the summer, if you're a young family with very young children and both working, it becomes quite difficult for you. So is age profile around the staffing of evening stroke day things, because there is a way of, if people can work together, that you can make sure that everyone can cover their things. I know it's difficult because people have commitments, but I am conscious of these things. Having my late wife would have said I wasn't particularly tuned in parent, quite relaxed really, but I am conscious of the risk, and I think we just, what you said is proportionate and what you said is appropriate. But if this goes on, we do need to look at how we model going forward with the staffing we've got against the age profile of their responsibilities.
Well, what Jason said previously is we're obviously conscious of all that. We'll take that all on board. Thanks so much. You've got something to add?
No, all I was going to say is that, when we've obviously been conscious of the industrial action, how it's impacted us, but there were lots of communications about the dates of the strike action and to do with others as well. So employees were urged to kind of speak to their manager well in advance and look at kind of hybrid working, working from home, all of those kind of things. So we have been really trying to really engage with everybody on that.
I'm really not saying anything negative, and Stuart's very good at the way he brings these things to us and makes sure that we're aware of the risk, and I'm grateful.
Yeah.
If we don't talk about these things, people would imagine that we haven't really paid any interest in it, which is quite the
I
contrary.
know there's lots of work gone on this. It's very important. I think that's a very good question. So
Much to the contrary, which some people should know that we are discussing.
we are conscious of, yeah. Sure.
Thank you. So if I turn now to financial sustainability, you will see that we've reduced the risk score and RAG status for this in light of the more positive position arising from decisions in relation to council tax precept and government grant provisions. I won't go into detail on these because members were fully briefed on them at the last Fire Authority meeting in February. We have, however, only reduced this risk to an amber status given the ongoing uncertainties in relation to things like fuel and energy prices, and also, of course, the USAR grant provision, which Councillor Stutchbury mentioned earlier on. So, yes. So that was all I'm going to tell that particular risk. Mark, did you want to add anything to that at all?
No, I think you summed it up really well, Stuart. I think we're in a better position, but there's still some uncertainties and some nervousness about the longer term. But we'll keep an eye on it, and as I said earlier, we'll keep updating our assumptions and keep those kind of monitored on a regular basis.
Thank you. I'll now just briefly touch on the remaining risks before handing back to the chairman for any comments that members may have. The information security risk status is unchanged from the last time that you saw it in November, albeit that we continue to take steps to improve security in relation to areas of potential vulnerability, such as email, as set out in the risk register report at page 178. Regarding COVID, you will see that the risk score and RAG status were reduced the last SNV review in February, following the decision to withdraw specific COVID-related absence and mitigation measures, with residual controls absorbed into business as usual processes and procedures. As with the industrial relations risk, we are proposing to de-escalate this risk to the HR Directorate Risk Register for ongoing background monitoring, so we're not going to just lose sight of it.
No.
Regarding the McLeod Sergeant pensions risk, the risk assessment remains unchanged, as there have been no significant developments since we last reported to you on this in November. I think that's still right, Mark.
Yeah, there's nothing significant to update on at the moment.
No. Obviously, we continue to monitor that. Finally, in relation to climate change, you will have seen at page 184 some of the things that we've been doing in the short term to improve our capabilities, in particular the repurposing and adaptation of existing 4x4 vehicles in relation to wildfire risks. Longer term requirements in relation to this risk will be considered as part of the development of the 2025 to 2030 community risk management plan. That is pretty much everything that I wanted to particularly draw to your attention. So I'll hand back to the chairman for any questions or comments, and also to gauge whether members are happy for us to de-escalate the industrial relations and COVID risks down to the relevant directorate risk registers for ongoing monitoring, with the proviso that we will of course bring them back to you if there were any significant adverse developments to subsequently occur in relation to those risks.
Okay, Robin, one.
Thank you. I'm there with that de-escalation thing anyway. What I would say is that what we know is what's happened recently, in the sense that I do believe, to advise differently, there was an incident in Wickham yesterday, which was theoretically, it's still not, the details aren't out what actually took place, but the Buckinghamshire Press has got an article on it, what took place around the fire station, and you mentioned the urban fire rescue. There is a body of work to be done dependent when we know what the decision is around that, because if there had been such a major instance in Wickham, I'm sure that the unit in some way or form would have been involved in a supportive manner to assist the public. I did get phone calls about, and my WhatsApp told me that the traffic was completely blocked up in Wickham, but in Buckingham it seemed to be okay last night, because there's quite 50 miles between us, but I do think it was a major incident in Wickham today, and this is with the urban rescue, and the reason it came into to result of the 2011 thing. These things are risks, and we do need to monitor them. I know Stuart will produce a report appropriately, and we are going to be able to control that. But we can't be said enough that what the negative impact of losing something so significant, the asset and the grant, would be to our ability incorporation to match the need going forward.
I think that's just a statement. I think we agree.
No,
with
the
that.
question is,
Yeah.
what I said
Go on.
in the first thing, if you listen, Chairman.
I am
is that
listening
we
to
will
you.
get- I know I said a lot there, Chairman, but I enjoyed doing it. What I was trying to say was that we will bring back the risks of that, dependent on that, and it is right to mention it now, and it on the corporate risk register, because I know Stuart will bring back a risk analysis of any change negative if it was to happen, so that we can assess it, because we have to assess it. I'm sorry, we do, and I think you and I would be in agreement in assessing that. If we weren't in agreement about my rambling statement, Chair.
Stuart, you got any more words on that? You're thinking about it very deeply.
Chairman, can I think,
Go on.
if there are any changes in terms of urban search and rescue, which are communicated to myself, the authority will know about them very, very quickly.
I'm happy.
Councillor Rouse?
Thank you, Chairman. Just sorry, I'm in a taxi, so forgive me. Just with your permission, I just want to address this issue on urban search and rescue as the lead member. So I think it's right that as members we're scrutinising the financial risk, but I think it's important we're also measured in the language that we use. This is absolutely about the financial grant for the service. It's not about the urban search and rescue team. And as an authority, we'll have a responsibility through the community risk management plan to think through how we address the sorts of demands that the urban search and rescue team deal with. And as I've said, I think at the Fire Authority, it's really important at the moment recognise this is not a formal communication. We're managing the risk. We're in active dialogue with both ministers and civil servants over it. And I just think we just need to make sure we're being measured in the way that we talk about it and not create unnecessary concern over the future of the team, because it's the financial grant that we're talking about at the moment, not the team.
I didn't know he was a member of the committee, but.
That's fine. No, I will always
I'm
leave
to the committee, and I didn't know that members who weren't on the.
Well,
committee could speak.
it's
And
my
I didn't realise he
discretion.
was one of the meeting either. It's a very
It's a discretion.
very
for me.
interesting experience.
Excuse me. It's my discretion who talks to this meeting. So thanks for that. That's really interesting. Okay, any other questions?
Right. Oh,
No more questions?
Well, yeah,
Oh, do you want another question?
it's not a question, just a clarification.
Observation.
Yeah, and well, what we're talking about yesterday's at the Wickham,
Oh, yeah.
and I think I'd like to sort of note that we should thank the police and the fire brigade, the way they turn up and the way they carry all the duties. And I think it was nice to, then everybody was very sort of convinced that everything been dealt accordingly.
That's really helpful,
We
actually.
should thank them for everything.
We
And I
will
think-
do, absolutely right. I mean, we're very proud and to support we go in Wickham. We're proud of Wickham, aren't we?
Well, we all are, yeah.
Okay,
I'm
that's a
obviously
really,
not far from there anyway.
yeah, they are. So that's a really, really positive comment. Any more comments on that? Okay,
Okay, so the recommendation on page 163. Recommendation 1, that the status of identified corporate risk at Annex C be reviewed and approved. And recommendation 2, that comments be provided to officers for consideration and attention in future updates/reports.
agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Good. Number 10?
Thank you. The code of conduct is being presented today as part of a review of our processes and procedures. The code of conduct was updated and went out formal consultation through September to October 2022. And if approved, this document will be presented to the Executive Committee on the 22nd of March 23 for recommendation for adoption as a services code of conduct for the following 3 years. Appendix 1, which is detailed from 189 in your pack, is the proposed updated code of conduct. Feedback received from the consultation process as highlighted in Appendix 2, which is from 217 of your pack, has been considered and incorporated into the updated code of conduct where appropriate. Apart from accepted minor amendments, changes are shown as either additional text underlined or deleted and struck through. As you will note, some amendments have been made to the current code of conduct, and these include making reference to the core code of ethics, fire and rescue service in section 3, in section 8 and smoking, additional further information on smoking in vehicles and the exclusion of your own personal time has been included. In section 9, additional information has been included on information security. In section 15 and standards of dress and appearance, reference is made to being appropriately dressed for work, whether working in the office or at home. With regards to jewellery and adornments, the emphasis on health and safety rather than what is considered in keeping with a professional image. This could be interpreted differently. Hair, again, the focus is on health and safety rather than what the organisation deems appropriate. The section on tattoos has been reduced to focus on tattoos considered discriminatory, violent, profane, intimidating, and therefore unacceptable, rather than visible tattoos being unacceptable. In section 22, unacceptable use of technology. Apart from general updates, the section on social media has been updated to incorporate online platforms and the importance of being aware that out-of-hours activities can still be considered in the course of employment, and the inappropriate use of online and social media platforms and the sharing of material of an unprofessional nature in the course of employment will amount to more misconduct. The section on cyberbullying has also been updated with examples provided being more relevant. Further to our normal consultation process and being mindful that external scrutiny would be appreciated due to the allegations surrounding London Fire Brigade and Fire and Rescue Services, further amendments have been made to the document, and this is following feedback we received from South East employers. So additional points of contact for reporting concerns rather than to the employee's line manager in section 5 has been added. In section 7, rather than referring to the local working population, we now refer to the local residential population. In section 8, an additional paragraph has been added on fitness and the requirement for operational employees to undergo 6 monthly fitness assessments. An additional paragraph has also been added on immediate suspension from work if an employee tests positive for drugs and or alcohol misuse during a screening process. In section 15, the examples of unsuitable business attire has been removed, and in section 16, and the definitions of a relationship and the requirement of declaring these colleagues has also been added. So dating colleagues, this is due to the potential risk for sexual harassment claims. The implementation of the code of conduct and the whistleblowing procedure, which I'll be talking about next, form part of a wider cultural review, and I'll be passing over to Anne Stanell, who will talk through some of the areas of the project in advance of the executive committee in the summer. Thank you. So over to Anne.
Thank you. Okay, so the objective of the culture review is that all employees are aware of the procedures, processes and support in place for them and feel able to come forward with any discrimination or inappropriate behaviour concerns they have experienced or they have witnessed. The paper is due to be presented to the Executive Committee on the 22nd of March. All employees are assured that they will be listened to and action taken as a result. Allegations are dealt with robustly and all employees are aware of some of the expected behaviours. So the main piece of work that we're looking at is around a Speak Up campaign. So to make sure that employees understand what whistleblowing is, they're aware of the procedure, what it covers and how they can report issues and concerns. And also that they understand what the grievance policy and how to report issues and concerns there. So we just wanted to make sure that everything was as clear as possible. We have published the whistleblowing information, but this the Speak Up campaign, which is what we're calling it at the minute, is the main piece of work. Because we just want to make sure that employees have trust in the procedure and the process, that managers know what to do when somebody raises a concern. And that employees feel safe and are positively encouraged to use the confidential helplines. So that was the main part of the work that we're doing. But as part of the report, there's also other areas of work that we're working on. I'm just going to briefly touch on some of those at the minute, if that's okay, Chair. Yeah. So some of the work that we've been looking at the minute is the disclosure and barring service. We're reviewing our procedure. We currently have 339 enhanced DBSs. So some other fire and rescue services don't DBS check at all, but we do, and we make sure that they are up to date and any issues are dealt with. We also review the posts that need checking as well, so we're doing that on an ongoing basis. Part of the paper will be our response to the inspectorate as well about everything that we have in place for DBSs, which we would propose that other fire and rescue services adopt as well. So that's currently going through consultation. Some of the other areas that we've looked at is reviewing previous allegations of grievances, conducts and outcomes. As Faye mentioned, We've spoken to the South East employers for scrutiny on the procedures that have been consulted on. And we've also spoken to them about if there are any concerns or investigations that need to take place, could they support us in that? And they've said that they will do. And just a few of the other areas, we've had a lot of freedom of information requests, which we've obviously responded to, and the Director of Legal has been consulted on just in regards to some of the areas to make sure that everything that we are responding on is correct. We've planned an employment engagement roadshow, and we're just looking at the timescales for that, what that will involve, who will be involved as well. So that is kind of work in progress. There's a NFCC Culture Review Conference on the 27th, 28th of March. So myself and the Head of Technology Transformation and PMO are going to that to learn what others are doing and is there anything else that we should be doing and implementing for the best practice. I am keeping the Councillor Gary Hall updated on a regular basis with all the work, so he's aware of what's kind of going on. And that's just a few of the areas that are in the plan.
Robin.
Yeah, thank you very much for very thorough and when it comes down to personal, we have to discuss the line between what is appropriate and personal outside and what isn't, and I think maybe we are there. And use of we haven't got anything here about use of technology in work, in the sense that if you're driving along and you've got this technology on, you actually work, that can be a distraction. If it's in there, I apologise. I didn't see anything about the use of that one you were going, because it is quite a, how do I put it, we're all party to phone rings, doesn't it? You know, it could be something to do with if it's a number that you know, it's pressure on you, and also with phones now being as we just demonstrated, quite active, quite reactive communication things. If we need to understand something around the use of social media or connection materials while you're in the workplace, because it is important to that, because you may inadvertently, we've all, you may have a FaceTime with somebody, you might actually be in a place and it might be a legitimate call to a family member, but when you're still in a place with that phone on, you may inadvertently be filming something else which is in the background. So I think we need to just check the legalities around that type of thing. Disclosure, filming, the right to disclosure, and personal use of material and when travelling and doing something to make sure that our paperwork's in line with good practice. God doesn't go on, but we've all got these pressures around which we didn't have 25 years ago. We've got devices in our, basically we've all got one which you can, which is a telephone you talk to, really, which is a huge change from having to stop and go to the kiosk, isn't it? As used to be the case when I was younger, and I think it's to mention it in there, but I do think it's something we need to look at. You know, especially using them in a vehicle.
Do you want me to pick that up?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, you've got it there, Faye.
In section 22, there is a section on acceptable use of technology. So we do expect the appropriate use of technology within the workplace. And
yeah, and also if you go to page 197, councillor, it says there's two paragraphs at the bottom there that talks about security of data when travelling to and from work or from home, and also when working from home, employers must be mindful of their surroundings and potential increase for breach.
That's included in it.
It's included.
Yeah,
that's fine. Just I couldn't.
Yeah, page 197.
197. I read it, but I didn't readily didn't jump out at me. And if you don't see it, if you don't ask, you don't know. It's always good to ask. If you've reassured me, which is
you're reassured. You're reassured.
I'm reassured, Chair.
Okay.
I'm reassured.
Okay, is that the end of your?
Be reassured at this moment.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, any more on that at all? Any more questions?
Okay, so the recommendation is.
Councillor Bath.
Oh, Cam.
Thanks, Chairman. Just something that comes to mind, that having Councillor Statuary having raised this point, there's been a lot of controversy in the press about I think many police officers taking photographs at incidents and sharing them on private WhatsApp groups. Do we have anything that guides people in terms of the morals and ethics around that, because that's, I think, quite important. It's a risk.
Yeah.
So section 22
Yeah.
again,
Yeah, it is.
section 22.4 talks about online and social media platforms. So this has been specifically updated to say,
On the same page.
yeah, that, you know, individuals need to be mindful of what they're posting.
Thank you, councillor.
And would all members of staff identify WhatsApp as social media? A lot of people think of WhatsApp as a messaging application, don't they?
So yes, it does say messaging apps. So
Okay, so
try to keep it general because I know there's more than just
It's
that out there.
Yeah.
there are lots of
It's in the same.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for questioning. Any other questions?
Okay, recommendations on page 185. Recommendation 1 is that the Code of Conduct, as detailed in Appendix 1, is approved for presentation at Executive Committee for adoption. And recommendation 2, the consultation feedback, as detailed in Appendix 2, is noted.
Agreed? Thank you. Next one. Okay.
Thank you. The whistleblowing procedure is the next report. So as part of the review process of procedures, the whistleblowing procedure was updated and went out for formal consultation through September to October 2022. Procedure has been reviewed in line with normal practice. No feedback was received on this document during the consultation process on the proposed amendments to the document. However, further to our normal consultation process and being mindful of external scrutiny being appreciated due to the allegations surrounding LFB and other fire services, further amendments have been made to the document following feedback from South East employers. And these include, in section 3, an additional paragraph has been added on the whistleblowing helpline on what to expect when making a call and the number. By having the information earlier within the procedure, it helps to provide the information quicker to the individual and hopefully reiterates that we want to hear from individuals. We're trying to make the importance of this helpline is there available for individuals rather than having it halfway through the document. We're trying to highlight that number and the line that's available. In section 4, in the employee worker section, an additional bullet has been added on raising concern with the service in the first instance where possible. In section 6, the definition of whistleblowing has been amended and now includes that whilst the disclosure needs to be in the public interest, it can include in the interest of colleagues in general where the public would be unhappy with the workforce being treated in a particular way. In section 9, an additional paragraph has been added on processing of personal information and adherence to GDPR regular obligations. In section 11, in addition to a contractor raising a matter with their nominated contact point, HR has also been added in case the issue is with the person they would be reporting to. And in section 12, the right to be accompanied at meetings has been added. Thank you.
And I think Jason wants to say a few words on this, the importance of this.
Yeah, it's important that people come forward if they've got concerns. It will be treated confidentially and it will be taken seriously. If you look at the number of issues across the whole of Fire and Rescue Service in terms of sector, if you look at South Wales, Dorset and Wiltshire, London Fire Brigade as 3 examples, you have individuals who, where there's evidence, where people have been treated appallingly. These people who've been treated appallingly never felt able to raise the issue with their line manager, with senior managers, with their union reps, with whistleblowing policies and procedures. And in general terms, what they would do is they would leave the organisation. And it's important that as an authority and as a service, we understand that, and we encourage people, if they have concerns, to come forward. They will be treated, like I said, confidentially, it will be treated seriously and everything will be investigated. If anybody wants to come forward in that sense. So I just wanted to underline that in terms of just encouraging people to come forward if they've got any concerns or any thoughts.
Thank you for that. Robin.
Yeah, very important subject in the sense that the Employment Crimes Act in 1996 is penultimate when making a decision around employees on both parties. And the policy around the Crime Act 2017, which is an amendment to it, there's an additional thing. And then there's the disclosure, a public interest disclosure act. Now, how you balance all 3 of those together to get a fluid, reactive and unconfrontational for a person who wants to disclose is very difficult. I'm glad you're looking at it where it is, but the one thing which you said, which worried me at the onset, was you said there hadn't been a very big pickup to the interaction to the policy, which even means we can rest assured there is no major problem within the authority, which would be great to know. But if someone had picked up and spoke, we would have been able to monitor that, well, actually, that we're really happy with what's going on, and we've got good working relationships with our senior line management, and there isn't a problem. But when it comes to disclosures, as evidence has been clearly in the public domain on, not with us, but with other organisations, disclosure has been really difficult to do, and a whistleblower has quite often been the victim of it. So I'm really pleased we're moving to that, but I'm not sure with the balance of those three legislations, which I don't know are quite contradictory to each other actually, in their aspirations and rights. But in everything we do, I want to be assured that we're operating under the 1996 Employees Rights Act, because that's the thing that we are dealing with, employees, not all the other things are additional legislation. Don't necessarily, the trouble with legislation never ever refers back to the previous legislation. It stands in isolation and then is testament to its own flaws quite often. So I'm sorry if that sounds a bit long-winded, but one reads lots of these things in the dark evenings, and if I'd been more educated, I probably took it up as a hobby. Thank you.
Yeah, Jason's coming in again, but I must stress that this is really important. We are taking it really serious, and that's the whole point of having it here today.
Yeah.
Yeah, people do come forward. We do process cases, we do listen to people, we do investigate cases. So people do come forward. We don't talk about that in this area of issues of confidentiality, but people do come forward and we do investigate. So it does happen. The purpose of this, though, is to strengthen that and to actually give people more opportunities to come forward in that sense. I don't know whether Faye wants to add anything on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It just gives people that opportunity. If they have an issue, they can go onto our system, they can have a look at our procedure, and they know how to raise an issue. And like Jason has said, we do have people that do come forward, and they come to us internally more so than go to the whistleblowing helpline.
If I was to make a comment from my old profession, which is working in farm working in, and if I was given those three pieces of information, I'd had to try and, how do I put it, get it down to the narrative of ordinary speak. It's very difficult to actually do that, and how I'm sure that the staff are doing everything they can to do it. But I understand that if I'd been thrown that a few years ago in order on the farm and was having to try and understand what that actually meant, I can assure you I wouldn't have done. And I've just gone off with my collie on the pod, but I can scratch my head for a few hours. But it is quite complicated.
We got Anne-Marie.
Yeah, so we actually discussed your point quite clearly, that says you can have all the policy in the world and you can put it on your internet. If no one goes and reads it and no one understands it, it doesn't mean anything. So Faye's been working with Emily, our communications and marketing manager, to kind of bring it to life and make sure it's understood. And she's done some work looking at other campaigns that people have used, trying to make sure that by doing whistleblowing, you're not put a target on your back and stuff like that. So we're trying to bring it a bit more to life, so that it isn't just go and read 500 words in a policy. It's a bit more real and understanding, and kind of isn't seen like whistleblowing. It's just seen as a way to raise a concern. So we are working on that.
Thank you very much, Anne. Thank you.
I can share the campaign pack.
I'd like to be a bit long-winded in the expression bit, but I did enjoy it. Thank you.
Well, thanks for the question. I mean, this is the whole point of having this committee together, and we talk about this. This is really important, and it's all about confidence in, giving confidence to our officers, which is what it's all about, isn't it, Jason?
Yeah.
And it will return in the future, but it's up there on really what we think about this falls. Confidence, well-being, the whole thing. Any other questions? Okay.
So the recommendation is on page 221. It is recommended the updated whistleblowing procedure as detailed in Appendix 1, noting the proposed additional wording in the updated document be approved for publication.
Agree?
Agree.
Thank you. Item 12. Marie.
Thank you. So this paper is to present an update on HMIC FRS, and it is split into three parts. So the first part being the action plan, which can be found on pages 247 to 253. The service is making progress against the action plan, with one change since the last report. Following the sign-off of prevention strategy, we're able to move one item to now be completed. The prevention improvement plan that feeds the HMIC plan is also being presented today and shows further detail on the progress being made. We continue to review the items on the plan regularly, but our key focus remains around the prevention and the equality, diversity and inclusion as the two points of concern that were raised. The second area that's covered in the paper is the revisit debrief. So following the inspection, the previous inspection, HMIC come back to do a revisit. The revisit is to review our progress against the course of concerns, and this took place week commencing the 2nd of January. The revisit highlighted the progress we've made on the two areas, and the HMIC team are looking forward to seeing more progress in May. We received our revisit letter on the 24th of Feb, which can be found on page 255 to 257. But we will continue to assess the evidence that we've got in prep for our round 3 inspection. So moving on to the third part, our round 3 inspection. This will commence in mid-April. The inspection covers 10 weeks and over 50 interactions with our staff, including interviews, desktop reviews, workshops, and it should allow HMIC the opportunity to interact with about 25% of our staff. There are a number of changes to the inspection this time round, including an additional grade of adequate, so that will move us to 5 grades in total, and the removal of pillar judgments. So we will no longer get a judgment for people, efficiency, effectiveness. It will be broken down into the next level of detail. The senior management team have also been briefed on more detailed changes under each pillar. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you for the report. You're moving this forward positively. You're engaging with them in a proper manner, and thank you for the report and thank you for the work you've done on it. It's not something that the realities are realities, and there's nothing really there to question the detail, but thank you for the time put into it.
Any other questions? No. Okay.
Right. The recommendation is on page 241, that the committee note the updated HMIC FRS BFRS improvement plan March 2023.
Great. Thank you very much. 13. Simon.
Dutifully over to Joe, who's going to present the report.
Oh, well done. Welcome you. Welcome you.
Thank you. You'll find the prevention highlight report within at page 363 onwards. On the paper initially, and from 267 is the actual highlight report. A little context of this, this gives an update on the prevention improvement plan, which was put in place in November 2021, combining elements from our HMI CFRS inspection, but also alongside a prevention evaluation that was conducted by Group Commander Birch over the period of 2020-2021, and the 12 requirements of the Prevention 5 standard, which were introduced in June 21. All of those came together to formulate 60 recommendations, and this gives the update for the November-December period against those. It's pleasing to note that we had at that point 21 of the recommendations completed, and since then we have moved to the visit 4, so we are on track for our mid-term review, which will occur in April of this year. Within this report, there are some highlights to note, particularly about recruitment, and that does factor in other departments within the organisation. From a recruitment perspective for ourselves, the prevention headcount is at full capacity for the first time since October 2021. And that has been quite a feat in getting all roles filled. And although it takes onboarding and probationary period, it's beginning to show within the impact upon our delivery numbers, which are also increasing. So that is a praiseworthy point. Alongside that, we have the prevention strategy, which Emily has mentioned already, has been approved by Fire Authority, and Since its approval in October 21, the preparedness and improvement audits ongoing at the moment have shown that that's been well received by our operational crews who are users of that strategy, and they are showing that they understand the key points and drivers within it. And then alongside that, we have the continued work on management oversight via referral process. That's noted within this direct report as beginning to change, and so structures have been put in place. It's an ongoing piece of work identified as activity through the January-February period, and although we've had a change within the team that we worked strongly on the side, which is our admin team, there are mechanisms in place to ensure that our referral processes have the appropriate level of scrutiny and oversight. Part of that is the risk stratification, which is mentioned as one of our recommendations within there. And that risk stratification work will bring us into line with national expectations for terminology and how we lay out what we intend to deliver and the standards against that through the public. Our next steps, moving on from that, are the midterm review, as I mentioned, which will occur in April, ready for May, which will be 18 months since this document was approved. And also the point of moving one of the areas, there are two noted in there that are on hold, and one has started to progress, which relates to youth engagement and early intervention activity. That was on hold based on external factors, documents being produced by the National Fire Chiefs Council, but also requirements that are written into the provisions of the serious violence duty. That duty took effect from January, and so work on that area has begun to commence. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Any questions at all? Robin?
Yeah, I just want to understand our involvement. The legal implications which are listed with road traffic, obviously, Home Safety, Housing Act, Child Act, and you go down safeguarding, you go down to all the others and end up on a mental capacity and modern slavery, and around reading them in verbatim, and then this legislation behaviour. Many times, I would imagine that our firefighters are probably in their work, probably encounter many of these things as the first person who actually been there to see what's going on. Now, with mental capacity, that's a difficult thing for anyone to judge at the best of times. With the elderly, vulnerable people we've got in the community, I just need to know that we, how we empower our staff to be as reactive as they want to be in supporting those things. Because it's empowering, because we haven't necessarily got legal implications around those things because they fall to other authorities. And when it comes to mental health and mental capacity, no one ever seems to know whose responsibility it is, do they? Until something goes wrong, then it was everybody's responsibility. So how we as an organisation are putting some resilience around supporting our staff to be able to deal with this. Because many times you'll go home from a job having met something, and you would find it quite challenging. And I'm sure we've got processes in place, but it's someone gatekeeping those concerns when they're raised, so that we actually, as an authority, I'm sure we are, point them to the right people, because being a firefighter, you're not a social worker, and being a firefighter, you wouldn't have a full, you're not, the care act, very difficult things. Sorry if it's long, but I do need to know that we've got, and I'm sure we have, a gatekeeping thing when you get home or you get back to the fire station. You say, I encountered this problem, it's clearly an issue there. What are we going to do as an authority to make sure that's red flagged? Because I'm sure it goes on, but it's not in the report, and you wouldn't put that sort of thing in the report.
Okay, Joanne.
Within that, we have quite a strong overlap between prevention activity and safeguarding activity. The mental capacity side of things goes more under our safeguarding world. Our firefighters go into people's houses, they recognise risks, they identify them. We do not expect our firefighters to be trained to assess capacity, and also we wouldn't expect our prevention staff to. Capacity varies, time and place specific in terms of assessments, an assessment of capacity on financial management may be different to an assessment of. What we do is equip them to highlight where capacity is questionable and may impact on that person's safety and well-being. And that comes through the safeguarding process. The safeguarding process is different for mental capacity for Buckinghamshire and Milton Keynes, because one operates through a GP-oriented route and one operates through direct referral. So we have two different routes that progress from there. In terms of the support we offer to the staff who are recognising those risks, and over the last 12 months, it's noted how many of our safeguarding risks have been related to mental health conditions. Isn't one of the 10 factors of the Care Act, but is something that we use the safeguarding process to report upon. There are mechanisms that are already entrenched in service that we can utilise for people. So safeguarding training highlights the risk and the need for staff to be aware of their colleagues' well-being when dealing with incidents that there is a mental capacity element. And then from that, we have our welfare team and trauma support and that side of things. But for staff who are in regular contact, such as the prevention delivery team, they also have what's termed a daily debriefing, if I can say that. So at the end of each day, they have that opportunity to meet with their peers and to offload, share difficult cases so that they are not taking that mentally home with them and it impacts on their life. Supervision is written into the existing and the update of the safeguarding procedure as well. And supervision offers that support alongside. So we have many different aspects to it, but it's about recognition both of the external risks, but also the personal needs and then how we address those. And of course, mustn't forget we've got our EAP programme.
Yeah.
Does that cover everything from a welfare perspective?
Well, I must say that was a really in-depth, brilliant answer. It really was. Do everybody agree on that one? Really caring what we're all about, this organisation. Thanks so much for that. It was really great answer. Thank you much. Any other questions? Okay.
Chairman, I'd just like to say that having gone through all the papers, still 300 pages of them, I was really very impressed that I think in this area there's an awful lot of people working very hard to deliver progress.
Yeah. And
to distill it down to 2 pages of a summary is excellent in terms of communication. So I'm impressed with the quality of work and the commitment that's underlying a few sentences here, because the work you've done is I think excellent and it's making great progress. It's just what the authority needs. So thank you very much.
And I'll just add to that again that the whole point of this committee is to bring these really important questions to be asked this organisation, and we've had a classic example of an officer who knows exactly what's going on. That's great. Thanks so much for that.
So the recommendation is on page 263 that the committee note the Prevention Improvement Plan Highlight Report November to December 2022, summarising the progress made against the measures required to secure long-term improvements to prevention delivery in Buckinghamshire Fire and Rescue Service.
Great.
Yeah, great.
Item 14. Marcus, isn't it?
Yeah, in the corner.
Oh. Marcus.
Thank you. Good morning, members and officers. Today I'll be presenting the Treasury Management Report for April to December 2022. The accrued interest earned for this period was 201k, which is 179k higher than the budget set for the same period. In terms of investments, as at the 31st of December 2022, the authority had 17.6 million invested in various counterparties, including banks, building societies, money market funds, and current accounts. By March 2023, so the end of this quarter, or in this month, I should say, this will reduce to approximately 15 million based on investments which can pay to meet our short-term expenditure requirements. In terms of borrowing, we repaid a maturing PWLB loan during 2022-23 for 620k. This loan repayment did not impact our revenue budgets, and the next loan is due to mature in March 2024, and it's for 1 million, and funds have already been set aside to repay this when due. Moving on to interest rates, the Bank of England's Monetary Policy Committee has increased the base rate on 10 consecutive occasions since December 2021 to now 4% as of the 2nd of February 2023. The next review date is March 2020 or 23rd of March 2023, with our Treasury advisors projecting the base rate will increase again and could potentially hit 4.5% in the next 3 to 6 months. The authority has been able to benefit from these rates increasing when reinvesting our surplus funds and therefore able to generate additional income for the service. I can confirm the authority has achieved the 30k budget set for 2022-23 and is projecting to achieve in the region of 300k by the end of this month, for the end of the financial year, which is more than we pay out on our current loans. So our loans, we pay interest of 281k and we've achieved income of approximately 300k by the end of the year, which is really, really good. And we are projecting this will also happen again in 23-24. So in terms of 23-24, the budget setting process during the MTFP, the budget has increased by 320k, bringing a new income target via investments to 350k. We should exceed this, but we set the budget on the cautious side just in case the rates do come down. And then we'd rather be in a position where we are overachieving than underachieving. We have to find the money elsewhere. The Treasury strategy for 23-24 was approved at the Fire Authority in February. And finally, we will continue to monitor cash flow on a regular basis to ensure we can meet our short-term expenditure requirements and maintain adequate liquidity. Thank you and happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Anybody at all? Okay.
It's a positive situation.
Well, we are. Same again. We've been privileged with some really good officers who work really hard on our behalf and the public and our communities. Thanks for that.
Thank you very much. Okay. The recommendation on page 271 that the Treasury Management Performance 2022-23 Quarter 3 report be noted.
Agreed. Okay, 15. We've already done this, haven't we? So thanks for that. So forward plan. Any observations on that whatsoever?
One comment, Chairman. The annual audit letter this year has changed its name from the auditor's annual report then.
It changed the name. Okay, that's noted.
And the content as well. But
absolutely.
That's to the plan.
And we will obviously we'll be seeing you in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which has been said previously.
Just going to highlight at the July meeting, we'll also bring the annual internal audit opinion.
Yeah, that was said. Yeah, that was me. Okay, thanks for that. All I can say is that I've said it previous and I'll say it again. This committee is all about being open, transparent, and people can ask their questions. And I think it's one of the most important committees in the organisation because we're there to be questioned. And we've classic today. The answers been come from officers have been really brilliant. I've been really proud of that. Aren't you, Robin?
Oh, I'm all proud. I'm proud of everybody does.
Oh, that's great. Well, we're all
Out the door without falling over.
we're all a team. We're all a team. Thanks for all the senior staff and everybody else in this organisation for your hard work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.